The following video is an overview of how to install Quality Stone Veneer stone products on Wawa stores, including manufacturer best practices and product installation requirements. Project specs and local building codes may vary per plan and store location. It is important to always cite project-specific requirements for your individual store. Quality Stone follows all national guidelines set forth by the National Concrete Masonry Association's Adhered Manufactured Stone Veneer Installation Guide, available for free download on their website at ncma.org. In addition to stone veneer and precast, Quality Stone is a one-stop shop for all installation parts and pieces shown in this video. We're available to help in the estimation and procurement of all specified materials. Part 1. Wall preparation and underlayment. We'll first begin with the underlayment procedure for a standard framed wall section on the store. Before beginning, verify all install areas are clear of overhead work above. The work area should be thoroughly inspected beforehand for the safety of all workers. In order to properly flash the stone area, concrete flatwork, window frames, door frames, MEP openings, drip cap flashings, and stone termination points alike should all be in place before wall preparation and underlayment for the stone can begin. The wall will have one existing layer of weather-resistive barrier, otherwise known as house wrap, installed by others. At the top of the wall where stone meets stucco, a drip cap flashing will already be in place for the stone to bump up to. Over top the existing weather-resistive barrier comes one layer of rigid foam insulation, and in most cases is also installed by others before stone prep begins. First, we'll install the metal black base flashing. Using the specified corrosion-resistant fastener, the base flashing is screwed into the wall. The flashing sits flush with the concrete flatwork below. Screws should be used every 16 inches on center. All fasteners must be of sufficient length to penetrate a minimum of 3/4 inch into framing. For fastener selection criteria, refer to the most recent version of the NCMA guide, and most specifically ASTM-C 1861. With the base flashing installed, a traditional vinyl weep screed is installed sitting 2 inches over top. 2-inch spacers, such as these styrofoam blocks, are helpful for holding the weep screed in place. Again, attach the weep screed with the corrosion-resistant fastener. At the slim return into the door frame, for instance, small sections of base flashing and weep screed should be cut at a 45-degree angle and attached around the corner. Installed next is the secondary layer of WRB. A single layer of 60-minute weather-resistive barrier is installed starting at the base of the wall, covering the flange of the weep screed and working upwards in a shingle-like fashion. The upper layer of the WRB should lap on top of the lower layer by a minimum of 2 inches, and the vertical joints should be lapped a minimum of 6 inches. Inside and outside corners must be overlapped a minimum of 16 inches past the corner in both directions. Vertical terminations and all openings are then sealed with an approved 6-inch rubber flashing tape. Last, at these vertical transitions, a vinyl casing bead with a built-in backer rod is attached. This piece acts as a clean termination point for the stone to bump up to, and provides the consistent 3/8 gapping between materials required for building expansion and contraction. Wire lath comes next, which is a 2.5-pound self-furring metal lath, and is attached with the corrosion-resistant fastener with the dimples of the lath facing into the wall. Lath should overlap a minimum of 1 inch at the vertical seams and a minimum of 1/2 inch at the horizontal seams. In addition, the vertical seams of the lath should be staggered. Lath should be wrapped around inside and outside corners a minimum of 12 inches and fastened every 7 inches vertically on each stud. Finally, with the lath installed, a 1/2 inch mortar scratch coat is applied. A traditional type S premix mortar is used. The scratch coat should be applied with enough material and pressure to embed the lath and provide sufficient thickness of material over the metal. As soon as the scratch coat becomes somewhat firm, the entire surface is to be scored in a horizontal direction only. The mortar scratch coat should cure for a minimum of 24 hours before stone installation begins. All scratch coats must receive level lines to follow across the wall, which are most usually drawn with a chalk line or level. This is a crucial step to keep the stone in a consistent plane across the wall, just as the installer did here using a red chalk line. Measure down from the drip cap flashing and mark the height of the stone sill area for proper planning of the stone termination. The sill will be installed in this area last. QSV hewn sills are approximately 3 inches in height. Similarly for a concrete block wall, most commonly being the trash enclosure and site signs, lath is attached over top the block with a pneumatic nailer followed by the same mortar scratch coat. Part 2. Stone installation. Boxes should be staged so that they're easy to access. Flats and corners must be consistently pulled from multiple boxes from multiple layers throughout the entirety of the installation to create an even, consistent blend of colors. Quality Stone specifies polymer-modified mortar to be used as the setting bed mortar for the stone and precast accents. This practice provides additional bond strength in these high-traffic stone areas, often subject to contact. Stone installation must always begin at outside corners beginning at the bottom of the wall section. Getting started, a level should be used to check corners for levelness. Alternate the long and short legs in opposite directions, then place stone flats to fit, working in toward the center of the wall. Wipe excess mortar from the top of each stone as it's placed so the next can fit tightly over top. This is a dry, laid installation, meaning there are no joint lines in between pieces. Keep the space between stones tight and uniform. Stone can be trimmed or cut as needed using a hatchet or mason's trowel. A hand grinder or power saw should be used for straight cuts. To further ensure a strong bond, dampen the scratch coat with water using a pump sprayer. This must routinely be done throughout the entirety of the installation, and will be required more frequently in warmer temperatures and areas in full sun. Requirements and best practices for mudding the stone. Important. To properly mud the stone, the entire back of the piece must first receive a thin layer of mortar from end to end, corner to corner. Firmly scrape this first layer of mud down into the voids of the stone, never leaving a portion of the stone dry. You should hear the trowel loudly scrape the stone on this layer, which puts moisture into the stone and creates a bonding surface for the remainder of the setting bed. Then, add more mortar to the stone, building the center thickness to about 1.5 inches. The back of each stone should be entirely covered with mortar before placing. When pressing stones to the surface, use a gentle wiggling motion using enough pressure to fill textures and voids. The mortar should squeeze out around the perimeter of the stone. Wipe excess mortar and continue to use a level and chalk lines as you work across the wall. Flats and corners include raked ridges on the back of the pieces to hold the necessary setting bed and provide the very best bond to the wall. Stone pieces should always be selected and laid in a fashion that breaks up continuous horizontal and vertical joints. Long runs of continuous lines will not be accepted. Continue installing stone across and up the wall until reaching the level line marked for sills. Sills are installed using the same mudding and setting bed methodology. Sills should be cleanly mitered with a saw at a 45-degree angle at outside corners. Areas with short corner returns. On short return areas like we looked at in the prep work, such as the returns into doors, the shorter leg of the stone corner will need to be cut back about 2 inches. Trim the corner back and use varying lengths of corners to break up any continuous vertical joints. Place and install the stone corners, uniformly bumping up to the vinyl casing bead. Precast light blocks. For light blocks on store entrances, Quality Stone hewn edge precast caps are used. Cutting and fitting instructions for light blocks are to be followed and are found in the exterior details of the architectural plan set. In finishing, be sure to remove all excess mortar from the face of the stone and finish joints between sills using a joint slicking tool or similar. A non-metal soft bristle brush should be used to brush off the surface of the stone.